What would you do if someone gave you a full-ride scholarship, luxury gifts, and even a Bentley? No strings attached. For Omari, a brilliant but broke 19-year-old, all it took was signing one contract and walking into a golden cage. The shocking truth: some gifts aren't meant to help you. They're designed to keep you. Behind the warm smile of 78-year-old business mogul Madam Kendi was a chilling obsession. Her generosity masked deep loneliness and a need to control everything, including Omari. This story is inspired by real psychological case studies where manipulation hides behind affection. Through it, you'll learn 5 subtle signs of emotional control and how victims can fight back, even when they're locked inside soundproof rooms no one else can hear. Omari was once praised across campus as the lucky one with the wealthy mentor, but inside her mansion, he was tracked, drugged, and locked away, until a secret knock and real love led to his rescue. If you've ever felt like someone's help comes with invisible chains, watch this now, because missing this might mean you're already in a cage and don't even realize it. The tires shrieked loud and sharp, rubber against wet concrete. Rain slapped the windshield in frantic pulses as the Bentley lurched to a stop inches from the boy. His backpack had burst open, pages flailing like broken wings across the glistening street. One shoe off, one hand scraped. He looked up. The grille of the car blinked silver under the street lamp. Steam rose from its hood like breath held too long. The rear door opened. From behind the tinted glass, a woman stepped out. Tall, composed. A storm-colored coat hugged her shoulders, collar turned up against the rain. Her heels clicked in deliberate rhythm toward the scattered books. She bent, lifted a notebook by its soaked spine, offered it to him. "I'm terribly sorry," she said, voice warm, yet weighted with something practiced. "That was my fault. Are you hurt?" Omari blinked, lips parted. Water ran down his temple, trailing into the neck of his shirt. The moment stretched, a heartbeat too long. Then he stood, brushing gravel off his palms. "I'm okay," he said. "My bag just gave up." She smiled, not wide, not forced, but precise. "You're a student, then," she said, glancing at the spread of textbooks. A tattered folder marked Urban Tech Initiatives. "May I offer you a ride? At least until you dry off." He hesitated. Rain slicked down his forehead, stung his eyes. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. She stepped aside. "I'm Zuberi Kendi," she said simply. "I run the MZK Foundation. We fund community tech, particularly youth with vision. You strike me as someone with vision." She handed him a slim, gold-trimmed card. It gleamed beneath the streetlight. Omari stared at it. Then slowly, cautiously, he reached for the door handle and stepped inside. The interior of the car smelled of bergamot and warm leather. The seats enveloped him like memory foam. A faint jazz melody played, neither old nor modern. Something in between, timeless. Outside, the rain kept drumming. Inside, she studied him in the reflection of the glass. "You know," she said, smoothing a crease on her glove, "I saw you last week. You were speaking at that community center downtown. What was it called? Dandelion House?" He turned to her, surprised. "You were there?" "Briefly. I had another engagement." She paused. "But I remembered your voice. Something about bridging gaps with empathy, not code alone." Omari flushed. "I didn't know anyone was really listening." "Well," she said, "some of us listen even when we pretend not to." Silence settled between them, not uncomfortable. She tilted her head slightly. "What is it you want to build, Mr. Omari?" he said. "Just Omari." She smiled again. And what would just Omari build if he had every tool, every resource? He looked out the window. Blurred city lights smeared across the glass like watercolor. "I want to build a platform," he said finally, "that tracks food waste and reroutes it to shelters. Real-time mapping. Behavioral AI. But only if it respects dignity." "Dignity," she echoed. "That's rare currency in tech these days." The car slowed. Her driver glanced back through the mirror, received a nod. "This is me," Omari said, pointing to a modest brick building with vines crawling up its fire escape. Before he opened the door, she tapped his arm gently. "Take this." She slipped the gold card into the front pocket of his shirt. "There's an interview slot for mentorship fellows tomorrow. I'll have my assistant send you details. We don't believe in long applications. We believe in readiness." His breath caught. "But you already impressed me," she said. "I just need the rest of the board to see what I see." Then, like a scene drawn with clean lines and soft edges, the door clicked shut. The Bentley glided off into the rain, and he stood there, wet, breathless, and unsure if any of it had truly happened. He didn't tell his parents, not immediately. Over a plate of rice and boiled plantain, he mentioned the car vaguely. His father's brow furrowed. His mother stiffened at the name. "Don't accept favors that arrive too smooth," she said, rinsing her hands under cold water. "No one gives without measure." Omari nodded, eyes low. Later, alone in his room, he tucked the card behind the last page of his notebook, the one labeled, "Ideas that scare me." He didn't sleep well. A light bulb flickered in the hallway. Roof leaked again, one soft plunk every 30 seconds into the dented pan. He stared at the ceiling, one arm behind his head. Just before 2:17 a.m., his phone vibrated. One new message: MZK Foundation Assistant Interview confirmed. 8 a.m. sharp. Location details attached. We look forward to witnessing your potential. He sat up slowly. Outside, rain traced long fingers down the window. Inside, he closed his eyes. Hope crept in like warmth under a blanket. But it was not alone. It brought with it the shadow of something he couldn't yet name. The elevator door slid open with a whisper that felt too soft for such a towering building. Omari stepped into a glass chamber in the sky, air-conditioned silence pressing around him like an invisible hand. Below, the city spread wide and blinking. Above, the sun broke through the clouds like an accusation. He adjusted the collar of his borrowed shirt. It still smelled faintly of starch and the neighbor's dryer sheets. In his palm, his fingertips kept grazing the edge of the gold invitation card. Familiar now, but still out of place, like a pressed flower inside a math textbook. The door opened without a knock. Inside, marble floors, soft leather chairs, a wall of glass framing the skyline. The kind of office that didn't ask for respect. It expected it before you even entered. A long table stretched across the room like a runway. On it, a neatly arranged set. Silver laptop sealed in plastic. Black phone box with gold embossed initials. Navy blue suit jacket draped over a chair. No tag. Just his name on a card beside it. Haute. Madam Kendi stood by the window, backlit by a halo of soft morning light. She turned as if she'd known the precise moment he'd walk in. "You're early," she said, her voice silk wrapped around steel. "I didn't want to be late," Omari replied, wiping his damp palms on his trousers. "That already tells me more than any resume ever could." She gestured toward the table. "These," she said, "are tools. That laptop has a processor strong enough to run simulations in real time. The phone has encrypted channels, discreet, fast, secure. The suit, tailored to your measurements. We pulled them from your school records. And the shoes, yes. I suggest you change before your next meeting. First impressions echo." Omari stared at the spread. "They're mine, for now," she said. walking closer. They're gifts, because potential deserves good instruments. He ran a hand along the suit's fabric. It was soft in a way he'd never felt, like the inside of a promise. She placed a digital tablet in front of him. The official agreement. A fellowship isn't a transaction, it's a bond. Read carefully. He nodded, fingers trembling slightly as he swiped to the first page. Glosses blinked into view. Academic expectations, workshop attendance, public appearances. Then, something different. A section labeled Ethical Representation. Fellow must avoid all associations, actions, or speech that may compromise the integrity or public image of the MZK Foundation, its subsidiaries, partners, or mission. No definition, no examples, just a line that felt like a mirror without reflection. He looked up. She was watching him, calm, expectant. It's standard, she said. Just a way of ensuring you're protected from noise. The world likes to tear down what it doesn't understand. There was more. A box below. Fellows must install the MZK Safety Suite app. Grants administrative access to location data, device sync, and scheduling protocols. Mandatory for compliance and coordination. His breath caught. Why do you need access to my phone? We don't need access, she said. We offer protection. Every young scholar in this program is equipped with the app. It keeps you safe. No curfews missed. No confusion in scheduling. It also helps us make sure you're where you should be. He stared at the blinking accept button. And if I don't sign? She didn't blink. There are other candidates. But you were chosen for a reason. Still, time is precious. Our next appointment is this afternoon. The air shifted. Pressure rose like invisible steam in the room. Omari tapped the screen. Accepted. She smiled. Good. Her assistant entered. Gray suit, precise gait, tablet in hand. He handed Omari a thin black card. Spending allowance, the assistant said. Monthly top-up. Restrictions built in for your benefit. Restrictions? No alcohol, no gambling, no politics, the assistant said, as if listing the colors on a stoplight. Trust it. The system is designed for you to focus. The woman nodded toward the changing room. You'll want to wear the suit now. There's someone I'd like you to meet. 10 minutes later, Omari stood in the full-length mirror, adjusting the cufflinks that shimmered like glass cut from shadow. He didn't recognize the boys staring back. That evening, back in his apartment, the air felt different, as if his room had shrunk while he was away. He placed the new laptop on his desk, laid the phone beside it, plugged in both. As the screen booted, the app launched itself automatically. A logo spun, MZK Safety Suite, soft colors, friendly font. Then, Welcome, Omari. A brief flash. Map. His current location. A blinking dot. His building. His floor. Settings locked. A message appeared. New notification. Curfew active. Location access on. He stared at the screen. A noise outside, just a motorcycle. He closed the curtains. Another ping. Tomorrow's agenda. Breakfast briefing. 7:45 a.m. Dress code. Formal. He stood in the middle of the room, still wearing the expensive watch that had come in the suit pocket. It fit perfectly. Too perfectly. He turned to the mirror, touched the watch face, then looked down at his wrists. Something in his chest twitched. He tried to smile, tried again, then reached over and turned off the lights, but the blinking dot on the app glowed in the dark, quiet, unwavering, always watching. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, a soft hum filling the late afternoon hush of the sociology aisle. A small stack of books leaned slightly to one side, as if about to tip. Omari reached out for a worn paperback on community networks when another hand touched the spine at the same time. They both froze. She was just tall enough that their eyes met without strain. Warm brown irises rimmed with a darker ring, curious and calm. She arched an eyebrow. "You planning to save the world?" she asked. "With Chapter 5 of Ethical Urbanism?" He blinked. "Only if I can automate it." She smirked. And here I was hoping for a human touch. She let go of the book, her fingers lingering an inch longer than necessary. "Ayanda," she said, "sociology major, likes street food, hates small talk. Omari, fellowship kid, still adjusting to free suits and fancy apps." She studied him for half a second longer, then tilted her head. "You eat dinner like everyone else, right?" "I think so." "Great. Walk with me." They moved through the library's quiet corridors, steps light on the carpet, the air thick with the smell of old paper and pine-scented floor polish. Outside, the last of the sunlight painted the campus in amber streaks. Students lounged on the quad or rushed to evening labs. The world felt paused just for them. "What's your poison?" Ayanda asked as they passed the cafeteria. He hesitated. "I actually have this voucher from the foundation. It's one of those mentorship perks. Covers dinner." She stopped. "Oh, you mean those shiny black cards that look like spy gear?" Omari laughed. "Yeah, that's the one." "Well," she said, shrugging, "as long as the food's hot and the menu has less than 3 syllables per dish, I'm in." He pointed across the street to a small noodle shop. Its awning flapped in the breeze. Letters faded from years of sun. Ayanda's face lit up. That place, perfect. The interior was cramped. Walls lined with old photos of the owner shaking hands with minor celebrities. A bell jingled above the door. They found a corner table near the window, squeezed between a bubbling fish tank and a rack of laminated menus. Omari tapped the card onto the table when the waiter arrived. "Voucher use," he said. The man blinked, then nodded stiffly. "Of course. One moment." The service changed. The water came in crystal tumblers, not plastic cups. Dishes arrived plated with unnecessary garnishes. The cook peeked through the swinging door once, then vanished. A second waiter brought a free dessert tray, tarts dusted with edible gold, clearly not part of the regular menu. Ayanda stared at the truffle slice in front of her. "I asked for fried dumplings," she muttered. "Not an edible art exhibit." Omari tried to laugh, but his smile faltered when the receipt came. It had no total, just a small logo in the corner. MZK Preferred Dining Network. "Do they track everything?" she asked quietly. I guess it's just how they operate," he said. "Efficiency, coordination, branding." She nodded, but the air between them cooled slightly. The hum of the overhead light suddenly sounded louder. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small box. A chain rested inside, a silver bracelet, minimalist, weightless. "I got you something," he said, placing it in her palm. "Just a small thing." She ran her finger along the edge. "It's beautiful. Where from?" He hesitated. "Campus gift shop," he said. "Thought it suited you." She smiled, not questioning further. She clipped it around her wrist and turned it under the light. Clean, uncomplicated. "I like that." They walked out into the night. The street had thinned. Wind kicked up wrappers and dust near the curb. Her hand brushed his casually. She held it. He didn't let go. Just before they crossed the road, his phone buzzed. New message. MZK. Proud of your choices. Stay focused. He stopped. There was no way they knew. The dinner hadn't been on the calendar. He hadn't submitted any report. No photos, no check-ins. Yet the message had arrived. Ayanda turned to him, squeezing his hand. "You okay?" "Yeah," he said. "Just a reminder." She nodded. "I get those too, from my mom. Usually more passive-aggressive, though." He laughed, though his chest felt tight. They reached her dorm. She lingered at the door. "I don't date foundations," she said softly. "I date people. You're not your suit. I know. Good. She leaned in, kissed his cheek, then disappeared inside. The hallway light flickered as she walked away. Back in his room, Omari stared at his phone. The map was still open. His location had updated before he even walked inside. His breath slowed. He placed the phone face down, then walked to the mirror. The bracelet had cost nothing, at least not to him. It was part of a shipment from the Foundation's internal design firm. Unique, coded. He hadn't known that until after he picked it out, but by then, it had already felt too personal to be just another gift. He pressed his fingers against the watch on his wrist. Checked the time. 10:46 p.m. Ayanda's name hovered in his mind like warmth in a cold room. He closed his eyes, and for the first time since the fellowship began, he didn't feel excited. He felt watched. The bracelet glinted under magnification. Silver, unmarked to the naked eye, but not to the scanner mounted inside the lab at Kendi Holdings. A rotating lens pulsed once, twice, then locked onto a minuscule engraving tucked beneath the clasp. The algorithm flagged it. Custom code MZK 21, 1 of 1. The report refreshed itself on the wide screen in front of her. Madame Kendi leaned back in her chair. Outside her penthouse office, the sky hung low and blue-black. Distant thunder rolled behind the city's skyline. She tapped the screen, opened the attached images, and zoomed into one. A grainy, late-evening photo posted on a small sociology club social feed. 2 students, smiling. One of them unmistakably Omari, the other Ayanda Kunene. Her wrist caught the edge of the light. The bracelet shone. Kendi didn't blink. She closed the image, then called up the listening dashboard again. Tags and identifiers blinked to life. Dozens of data nodes clustered around Ayanda's recent activity. Group affiliations, tagged library visits, meal location histories. All harvested, processed, quietly approved. Nothing criminal, nothing scandalous. Just one thing out of place. The bracelet. She pressed a button on the side console. "Connect Omari," she said. The speaker chimed. It took 7 seconds before his voice answered. "Aha, yes, Madam Kendi." "Come in tomorrow," she said gently. "We're hosting a character retreat. It's important, foundational. For our inner circle." There was a pause. "I wasn't aware of it." "Good things don't wait for awareness," she said. "I'll see you at 9. She ended the call without waiting for a reply. Then calmly she typed an instruction on the terminal. "Widen app permissions. Omari. MZK. Authorization. Overwatch level. Justification. Preventive supervision." The command was accepted. Downstairs, in a different wing, the Foundation assistant picked up the phone and dialed another number. A soft voice answered. Hello? "Hi, this is Layla from the MZK Foundation. We're verifying emotional support contacts for our scholar Omari. Are you Ayanda Kunene?" There was a brief pause. "I am, yes. Wait, how did you get this number?" "Oh, he must have filled it in during orientation. It's standard. Just routine confirmation in case of travel or distress situations. We care deeply about our scholar's emotional health." Ayanda's voice tightened. "He never mentioned giving you my number. Sometimes it gets entered automatically when there's a close connection. Cross-platform metadata. It's a back-end thing." "Right," she said slowly. "I guess that makes sense. Thank you, Ayanda. You've been helpful." The line went dead. She stood frozen in her dorm room, phone still in her hand, eyes on the bracelet. Her fingers wrapped around it, pulling the clasp loose. She stared at the inside, then at the mirror. Then she slipped it off. Omari sat 2 blocks away in the Foundation's co-working lounge, bathed in warm light and silence. His phone buzzed again. New transaction. MZK allowance increased. Plus, $500 high memo. No distractions. He stared at it. No request submitted. No warning. Just reward. He knew what it meant. He hadn't mentioned Ayanda. Hadn't brought her to an event. Hadn't updated his profile to reflect any non-academic attachments. Still they knew, and they approved of the absence. He opened a blank email window, typed her name, deleted it. Typed again, deleted again. He sat there, breathing through clenched teeth, alone in a room with glass walls that reflected everything except escape. Across campus, Ayanda checked her own bank app. No change, no message, no contact, but something had shifted. She looked back at the bracelet now lying on her desk. She picked it up and slipped it into a drawer, shutting it quietly, as if closing something more than metal. Later that evening they met in the quad. The wind was colder than usual. The lights above cast long shadows on the pavement. Omari had both hands in his pockets. She watched him approach, her hair pulled back, jacket zipped high. They stood there in silence. "You didn't give them my number, did you?" she asked. "No," he said. "I swear." "They called me." He looked down. "They know everything," he said. "Even things we don't say out loud." Her voice dropped. "You didn't answer my question." "I didn't give them your number." She exhaled slowly, eyes scanning his face. "Then how did they get it?" "I don't know." She stepped back slightly. "Is there anything else you haven't told me?" His mouth opened, then closed. She waited. He looked away. That was the answer. Her voice cracked only slightly when she spoke again. "I liked you better before the card, Omari. Before the suit. Before the free dinners and the curfews pretending to be concern." He didn't argue. Didn't beg. He just nodded and said, "Me too." She left first. Her footsteps faded into the dark, swallowed by the sound of wind threading through empty benches. Omari stood alone, hands still in his pockets, the phone against his thigh vibrating softly. Another alert. He didn't check it, not this time, but he knew it was there, waiting, watching, always. The rain came down in vertical lines, thin as wire, relentless. It blurred the windshield like smeared glass, drummed against the roof in a steady rhythm that masked the silence between breaths. Omari sat in the back seat, hands clasped together, thumbs pressed tight. His phone vibrated once, then again. The driver didn't speak. The wipers ticked like a slow metronome. When the gate to the Kendi estate opened, it did so without sound. Lights lined the stone path in a gentle curve, each one timed to glow just before the car reached it, as if the house had been expecting him all along. The Bentley rolled to a stop under a slate awning, and the driver stepped out with an umbrella before Omari could touch the handle. He was escorted to the door. It opened before he knocked. The woman who greeted him was not the usual assistant, but Madam Kendi herself. She wore black silk, barefoot, a glass of red wine already in hand. "Come in, child," she said. "Tonight is for celebration." He followed her into the hall, shoes clicking on polished stone. The house breathed silence, muffled and warm, the air thick with the scent of sandalwood and something metallic beneath it. The rain shimmered across the tall windows but made no noise inside. She led him to a sitting room dressed in velvet and muted gold. A fire crackled low, not for heat but for effect. Omari hesitated. "I thought this was about the retreat." She turned to him with a soft laugh. "It is, but not the kind with group hugs and trust exercises. You're past that. You're ready for something deeper." She handed him the glass she'd been holding. He stared at it. The surface of the wine trembled slightly as his fingers wrapped around the stem. "I don't drink," he said quietly. "Just one sip," she whispered, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "To mark the beginning of who you are becoming." Her eyes lingered a moment too long. He brought the glass close, The smell was sharp, earthy, a hint of vanilla twisted with something bitter. He didn't sip, not yet. She turned away, disappearing down the corridor with a glide of fabric. He stood there, the drink still in hand, body upright, but uncertain. Then came the music, soft at first, classical, a string arrangement he couldn't name. It came from above or below, or both, directionless. He placed the glass down untouched, followed the sound. The hallway narrowed, the walls changed, leather panels, dark wood inlaid with geometric grooves. He paused at the end of a curved wall. The door opened with a soft chime. Inside, a dressing room. His name stitched inside jackets, arranged by season. Shoes that fit his feet precisely. Ties in his preferred colors, even ones he didn't know he liked yet. A scent diffuser pulsed in the corner, cedar and blood orange. He turned around. The door shut behind him with a hiss. His vision swam. He stumbled. The floor didn't tilt, but the room did. Light smeared at the edges. The wine. He hadn't drunk it, but something was in the air. His body sagged against the wall, fingers slipping down polished wood. Through a glass panel, he saw another hallway, its walls softer, covered in suede. A camera blinked red, then black, then red again. The next moment dissolved into something shapeless. He woke to humming, the kind that vibrates through bone but not air. He couldn't move his arms. His wrists were strapped with something soft but firm. A buckle clicked gently whenever he tried to shift. No pain, just restriction. He blinked against low amber light. The room had no windows. The ceiling was curved. A speaker crackled above him. "You're safe now, Omari," Madam Kendi's voice. Warm, patient, like a lullaby left on repeat. "No one can hurt you here," she continued. "No critics, no noise. Just us, just clarity." He coughed. His throat burned. No signal on his phone. No clock on the wall. A second voice. His own echoed back to him from a speaker recording. "Thank you for believing in me." Then a second version. Softer, modified. "I belong here." The audio looped. His pulse raced. He turned his head slowly. To his left, a mirrored panel reflected only the upper half of his face, blurred by fog. To his right, a steel tray. On it, a cloth, folded, damp. The bracelet was gone. The watch, too. Another voice entered the room. Hers again. Different tone. "You were always too good for that world out there. They don't deserve you." "But I do." He closed his eyes, pressed his wrists upward. No use. The restraint held. He remembered Ayanda's hand, her breath near his neck, her laugh. He bit his lip until it bled. Then 3 knocks, soft, precise. He knocked back 3 times. A signal, the same one they used to joke about during library study sessions, in case of disaster. A shared secret. He waited. No reply. He tried again. Then everything faded. The last thing he heard was her voice. One last time, softer than breath. "No one's taking you away this time." Darkness returned. The missing posters went up faster than the ink could dry. A face, a name, a number, plastered across lampposts, student boards, sliding past on subway screens. "Have you seen him?" Last seen Friday, entering a black vehicle outside Ashcroft Hall. The rain hadn't stopped since that night. It pooled at the corners of the streets, slid down panes of glass, masked the silence that had followed Omari's disappearance. His mother barely slept. His father filed reports with an officer who looked at him with a practiced sympathy, the kind that came with knowing most missing cases never made it past 3 days. They said it calmly, gently, like reading out of a manual. "We'll do everything we can. These things take time." Ayanda didn't wait for time. She stormed the front desk of the MZK Foundation, demanded access, names, logs. They handed her tea, politely, smiling. She stood in the rain for an hour after that, looking at the building's windows, waiting for one to blink back. When the investigation was finally opened, it started with digital footprints. Omari's phone had stopped pinging 36 hours earlier. Last signal. A blip near the far edge of the city's old district, just outside the Kendi estate. A geofence warning had triggered moments before his device went offline. Detective Mbele received the case on a Tuesday morning. He was meticulous, quiet, wore a dark coat even in warm weather, and always carried a small notebook he never let anyone see. He read every report, twice, then drove to the estate, the gates open for him as if they'd been expecting him. A butler met him. No handcuffs, no resistance, only perfect manners. Yes, officer. Madam Kendi has already prepared the necessary documents. She's most distressed by the accusation. He was shown into the foyer. Soft music played, Ravel or Debussy. The scent of cinnamon lingered beneath something sharper, almost chemical. Kendi descended the staircase slowly. I hear there's concern, she said, tone gentle but brisk. There's a young man missing, Mbele said. She nodded. Yes, tragic. But what does that have to do with me? He was last seen entering a car connected to your foundation. We have hundreds of vehicles, thousands of interactions. I'll have our logs pulled. You'll find everything clean, officer. He nodded. I'll need to look around. A pause. She smiled. You're welcome to inspect the common areas. The warrant only allowed that for now. The living room. Pristine. Kitchen. Immaculate. Guest rooms untouched. No hidden doors. No stains. No signs of disturbance. It looked more like a clinic than a home. But Mbele noticed something. The layout. It was too perfect, too symmetrical. And yet, there was a corridor in the blueprint that didn't match the physical space. Just a 3-meter inconsistency. Not enough to raise legal flags, just enough to plant doubt. He took notes. Meanwhile, Ayanda wasn't waiting. She stood at the edge of the estate that night, cold air wrapping her throat. The grass was wet. A humming sound came from the vents along the northern side, subtle, continuous. She crouched near the metal grate, pressed her ear against it. Nothing. Then, faintly, 3 taps, soft, deliberate. Her breath caught. She tapped back, waited. No answer. But it had been real. She moved quickly toward the maintenance entrance, heart pounding. The air smelled of damp earth and glue. A trash bin stood to the side, lid half closed. She opened it. Inside, packaging from acoustic insulation sheets. A receipt stuck to one roll, dated 3 days prior. She pulled it out, folded it into her coat, and ran. Back at her dorm, she drew the air duct layout from memory. Omari had shown her once, half joking, during a long study session. In case you ever need to break out of a private prison, he'd said. Now she sketched in silence. Lines, curves, gaps. She took the blueprint and the receipt to Mbele the next morning. He studied her carefully. You're sure? I heard him. I know that knock. It could have been anything. It wasn't. He placed the papers on his desk, stared at the grain of the wood beneath the drawings, then stood. Wait here. Hours passed. A second warrant was filed, this time broader, but not enough. The estate was too well prepared. The technical inspection was limited to surface-level monitoring. The dock systems were declared unremarkable. There were no rooms unaccounted for. No signatures on thermal scan. Kendi served coffee to the investigators herself, wore soft blue, smiled constantly. I want what you want, she said, to find the truth. When they left, she watched from her window, eyes sharp, fingers curled around the curtain edge. Below, Ayanda waited on the curb as the police car rolled past. Mbele stepped out last. She handed him a new drawing. updated with dimensions measured in person. He looked at her, this girl with fire in her voice and sleep in her eyes. He took the paper, didn't speak, just nodded once. Inside the house, Omari lay curled in the corner of the hidden chamber, his throat dry, lips cracked. He pressed his ear to the wall again, waited, listened, only silence. Then, a car, engine fading. His heart dropped, the sound of retreat, hope sinking like weight in water. His fingers slipped from the wall. His eyes burned. He whispered one name into the dark, then said nothing more. The drone hovered over the estate like a silent hawk. Its lens, cooled by micro-vented glass, swept slowly across the roof, then down the eastern wall. Below, the tactical team waited in formation, jackets zipped tight, boots planted. Each man still as stone, eyes fixed on the feed. Inside the surveillance van, the thermal imaging monitor pulsed blue, then orange, a blotch, like a body in fog. One investigator leaned in, tapped the screen. Unaccounted heat signature, he said. Far end of the east wing, behind a vertical surface, likely reinforced glass or mirrored composite. Mbele narrowed his eyes. Market. The blueprint glowed. Ayanda was right, he muttered. He stepped out into the half-lit dawn. Clouds hung low like breath that never exhaled. The estate loomed ahead, too quiet, too elegant. This time he wasn't here to ask. He was here to take. The second warrant had come through at 3:12 a.m. Judicial override, expanded search powers, full access to structural interiors and technology systems. The timing was precise, legal, cold. The team moved swiftly. Kendi opened the door in a white robe. Is this necessary? She asked, voice steady but eyes sharp. It is, Bailey said. She didn't resist. But she watched everything. Room by room, wall by wall they scanned. LiDAR mapping, ground radar, fiber optic probes into the walls. Still, no door, no handle, no crack. But the mirror, one of the tech agents stopped, ran a scanner along its edge. Thud. Then hollow. Mbele stepped closer. Behind this, reading confirms. Glass reinforced with tungsten mesh, won't break easy. He nodded once, then lifted his knuckles and knocked. 3 times. Silence. Then 3 soft knocks from the other side. Exact rhythm. Mbele's hand dropped. Cut it. The team got to work. Steel saws screamed into life. Sparks flew like lightning trapped in glass. From the hallway, Kendi stood watching, her face expressionless. But her fingers gripped the edge of her robe like claws. In the hidden room, Omari flinched at the noise. Light poured in through a jagged crack. The first light he'd seen in days. His wrists were red, raw, his voice nearly gone, but his eyes stayed open. He didn't look away. The mirror shattered. Behind it, a narrow vault door. One of the agents stepped forward with a portable crowbar, slotted it under the panel lip, and heaved. The door gave. Inside, the smell hit first. Sweat. Fear. That artificial floral mist they used in spas, layered to hide something darker. And there, curled against the far wall, Omari, eyes sunken, skin pale, but alive. Ayanda pushed through before anyone could stop her. She dropped to her knees beside him. He blinked, tried to speak. She pulled him into her arms. He didn't cry, not yet, but his body trembled. Got you, she whispered. I've got you. Behind them, the camera flash burst. Again and again. Kendi didn't move as the cuffs snapped around her wrists. The first officer read the rights aloud. She didn't interrupt. She stared at Omari. Her voice was soft. I saved him. Ayanda stood up, shielding Omari behind her. You caged him. Kendi tilted her head, eyes wet but calm. No one will ever love him the way I did. The room held its breath. Then came the click of the cuffs. Final. Cold. As they led her away, she turned once, looked back, whispered something only Ayanda could hear. You'll lose him, just like I almost did. And then she was gone. Outside, the sun had risen, faint, gold, defiant. Inside the ambulance, Omari stared at the ceiling. It didn't leak. It didn't echo. But it wasn't freedom. Not yet. The courtroom was colder than it needed to be. Not from the air conditioning, but from the silence. A silence stretched taut between rows of wooden benches, broken only by the low shuffle of reporters scribbling behind tablets, the occasional cough, the quiet hum of a heating vent that hadn't been cleaned properly. Fluorescent light washed the walls a shade too white. It made everyone look tired. Or guilty. Omari sat behind the witness stand, posture straight, eyes forward. A light bandage peeked out from under his cuff. He didn't adjust it. He didn't shift at all. The judge's voice blurred behind layers of protocol. The court clerk read charges. Someone cleared their throat. Cameras weren't allowed in the chamber, but outside the press pool grew larger with every hour. A woman fainted near the courthouse steps that morning. A man drove 4 hours to hold a cardboard sign, with "Truth has no sponsor" written in permanent marker. Zuberi Kendi sat across the room, not in orange, not in handcuffs, but in a gray suit tailored so precisely it might have been cut in the shape of regret. Her expression didn't crack. Her lawyers spoke for her. They called it a crisis of empathy, a psychological episode, a dangerous overcorrection born from years of suppressed grief and philanthropic overreach. The term obsessive moral attachment had been floated more than once. They nodded slowly when they said it. Like naming the thing was an act of healing. They offered settlement, a substantial one. The number was large enough to make some journalists forget how to ask questions, large enough to make committee members rethink their public outrage, enough to turn column headlines from "Captive in the Chamber" to "Generosity Gone Too Far," but not large enough to buy him. Omari stood when asked. The microphone made a sharp click. His voice didn't tremble. "I don't want her money," he said. Somewhere, a pen paused mid-sentence. "I don't want therapy wrapped in contracts or closure assigned a dollar amount." He looked toward her. She didn't blink. "I want recognition," he said, "that what was done to me wasn't an error. It was a decision made by someone who believed her vision outweighed my voice." A long silence followed. The judge didn't interrupt. Then Omari reached for the small cardboard evidence box placed before him. He opened it with both hands. One by one, he placed the objects on the table. The watch, the sleek black phone, the foundation spending card, and lastly, the silver bracelet. He didn't look at them, just let them lie under the courtroom lights, then picked up a pen, signed the release form, a quiet confirmation that he would not be reclaiming any item tied to the program that once called him a future of ethics in technology. He pushed the box gently toward the clerk, then turned away. Outside, the wind had picked up. Ayanda stood just beyond the courthouse doors, her hands in the pockets of her jacket, her hair pulled back against the chill. She didn't wave when she saw him. She just waited. They walked side by side toward the street. He didn't speak right away. Neither did she. The sounds around them, horns, heels on concrete, a distant protest chant, faded beneath the simple rhythm of their shared footsteps. When they reached the curb, he stopped, pulled from his coat pocket a small manila envelope. She glanced at it. "What's that?" "My next step," he said. "Trauma program, long term." She nodded slowly. "I'll come with you," she offered, "if that's what you need." "I want you there," he said. "But I also know love isn't a rescue plan." "No," she said softly. "It's a road you walk beside someone, not for them." He met her gaze. "There's a lot I still need to rebuild." I'll wait at the foundation, she said. He raised an eyebrow. I meant your foundation. She smiled, tired, real. I meant the same. They continued walking. The sun was low now, sliding between buildings, casting long golden shafts that touched everything like an old memory. The box of rejected items sat behind them on a clerk's desk. A sticker slapped across the top. Do not return. The phone would be wiped, the bracelet sealed, the watch dismantled. But the choices, the silence, the slow reclaiming of breath, those were his. When they reached the end of the courthouse block, a beam of light broke across the sidewalk. He stepped into it and kept walking, not rescued, but free. Sometimes what breaks us isn't violence. It's the silence afterward, the stillness of a locked room, the gentle hands that offer help with strings you don't notice until they tighten. This was never just a story about power or control. It was about the quiet decisions we make. When to speak, when to walk away, when to believe the things that feel too good to question. It was about how some chains aren't made of metal, but of kindness repackaged into ownership, care repurposed into surveillance, opportunity veiled as possession. And yet, there's something stronger than control, something harder to hold, but truer when it arrives. Choice. The choice to say no to comfort that costs your name. The choice to step into the unknown rather than stay where you're safely watched. The choice to heal, not with permission, but with self-recognition. In a world that often asks us to trade our freedom for a polished version of safety, reclaiming our truth becomes the most radical act of all. Not dramatic, not loud, but honest and human. Because freedom isn't a gift, it's a return to the self, unbought, unshaped, unobserved. Thank you for walking through this story, for listening closely, for holding space for pain, and for the quiet breath of hope that followed it. If something in this journey stirred you, we invite you to reflect out loud. Leave a comment, share your thoughts. Let someone know they're not alone in what they've survived, or what they're still finding words for. And if you'd like to hear more stories that challenge, question, and heal, consider following this channel, subscribing, and joining us again for the next one. Your presence means more than you know. Until then, stay human.